I'll be monitoring questions and chat. And Ron Jacobs, who's also on the phone here, he's with ACS. We've partnered with ACS for several years now. They've got some really good products. He's going to be showing you the manufacturing automation, which has different modules. I'll let Ron explain that, but he'll go through some of the efficiencies that this can help you with your work order and manufacturing bill of material modules. So, Ron, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you at this point.
Thank you, David. Just real quick, David, I'm not going to really monitor the chat. Or the hands up. So if need be, just say, hey, Ron, hold on a sec. Stop me talking, ask the questions, and we'll go from there, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be busy. I'll keep my eye on those. So.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, welcome, everyone. Like David said, I'm Ron Jacobs. I'm with ACS Group, or Advanced Computer Solutions Group. We're going to go ahead and show you our manufacturing automation product through this webinar we're going to do for you here. So basically, the manufacturing automation consists of a manufacturing efficiency base, which is basically the work order module. We do incorporate some things from bill of materials, obviously. And then there's the add-ons that we offer to the efficiency base. So we have our make to order, our outside processing, auto-generating POs, and scheduling. So if some of you are already using work order, you'll know that it's somewhat laborious to use, you know, just out of the box. It's, you know, a little quirky here and there. So we, you know, created some efficiencies out there, and then we created also the add-ons to try to provide more of a rounded solution for manufacturers. Okay, just a little history about us, and then I'll just jump right into the webinar. ACS Group, we've been around for over 25 years. My partner, Ron Chomp, and myself started the firm back in '89. We're both master developers. We both worked at Sage in the programming areas. We're both accountants. My partner, Ron Chomp, is also a CPA. So we wear a lot of hats. But, you know, we've been involved in Sage for numerous years, going all the way back to the character-based versions of the software. So we've got quite a bit of experience and knowledge of it. We are partnered up with the One Group. If you've heard of the One Group, it's us, Scanco, and it used to be JDBSG. They've been acquired this last year by Scanco. So we're all part of this group to try to provide really tight, seamless integrations for whether it be manufacturing or warehouse management. So between us that have the developed products within the Sage 100 product line, or Scanco or WScan, which are the scanning solution for shipping, warehouse, and receiving, along with manufacturing on the WScan side, once again, try to be all seamless and be able to provide a solution. And some of you might have been in the WScan webinar, which I think might have been a week or so ago with the DWD guys. Okay, products that we've come out with that we sell: multi-bin warehouse management software, obviously manufacturing automation we're going to go into. We have a light manufacturing system, which we call scheduled bill of materials, for the guys that really just want a reserve component and not really utilize the WIP environment that work order gives you to be able to process labor and outside processing and other things, along with having a schedule and know where everything is sitting in the cycle at any given moment. We also have an in-transit enhancement that allows you to transfer products between warehouses and utilize, you know, sales orders and purchase orders for demand and supply. We've got a property management and an apparel solution. And I'm just not going to get into all the details, but a lot of these integrate together with themselves. So if you wanted multi-bin and manufacturing, you could have them. Or if you wanted in-transit and multi-bin, or scheduled bill of materials and multi-bin, you know, a lot of them work together hand in hand. Okay, so we're going to start out with the manufacturing efficiency base. So we're going to go over some of the efficiencies and some of the nice little utilities that we've added in here for you to use. We've got live dashboards so that you can really see real time what's going on out there on the floor with your work orders, and it's got lots of drills into a lot of areas. We're going to go over the releasing and auto closing of work orders, being able to enter them quickly with an auto finish feature. We've got build availability available at a promise, so you know if you have component availability or not. WIP statuses, position movement, so we know at any given time where a work order is in the system, right? Whether it's in cutting or it's, you know, ready for final packaging, or ship, or sawing, or it's out in outside processing, maybe in painting or plating. And then we've got some, you know, for scrapping, if you need to do scrapping, we've added to the system to allow you to have reason codes and multiple GL account handlings for it, whereas stock Sage doesn't allow that. And then we've thrown in some auto-generate transactions. So if you're a client that doesn't really need the scanning and the solutions that WScan provides, we still try to provide you some extra feature sets there. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So I'm now in work order in my test company, and I'm just going to kind of jump right into a dashboard. So we'll start there. So dashboards, everyone has big monitors. We give you big screens nowadays. You can make the screen smaller to fit the smaller monitors if you still have those, but we offer these. We give you lots of filtering opportunities. So you can filter by a lot of different things. You know, we can come out here and say we only want to see releases, let's say. We don't want to see all the closes. Then we let you sort on any of these columns. Let's say we want to sort by item numbers, so we want to look at all the A1 computers. Maybe we want to sort on the scheduled release dates of when these are going to be delivered. So there's lots of different selection criteria and sorting abilities that you have here. You can also see that we give you a lot of drill down. So let's say we want to look at, you know, take a look at some of the newer work orders I have here. So let's say I wanted to drill down and look at this work order in more detail. So I can drill to the materials, I can drill to the operation line, I can look at all the transactions if anything had been completed or posted so far to it, drill right into the item master or to the sales order if it's being made for a sales order. We can still get out to work order inquiry, we can print travelers, lots of things we can do here. You'll see this button on a lot of our dashboard screens. This allows you to just dump whatever you see in here to Excel and start working on it. So, for example, let's say I wanted to look at the materials on this. I could come out to the materials in here. I could see the materials that are being used, right? It's giving me the extended quantities. I haven't issued anything yet. You can see the cost roll up. But, you know, I could click on any of these items, drill right into inventory if I like, if I wanted to see this battery and see some of the info there. Or once again, if I wanted to work on something in Excel, maybe like sum up all the costs, I could dump this out to Excel real quick. It creates an Excel file for me right here with it. And once again, I could come out here and do like a sum formula and get total costs and do whatever I like, because now I'm in a spreadsheet to work with the data. So once again, you know, you'll get that in all the dashboards. If I go to operations, you'll see that I could drill right here into the schedule if I so choose. So I'll be getting to that later, so I'm not going to drill in there right now. But you can see here in the operational detail, we've got our start and stop dates of, or due dates of each operational line. You can see if we've got any actual hours posted, what our costs are going to be anticipated, right? We don't have any actuals yet in here. You can see that with our outside processing add-on. We color code those lines to be differently, and I'll go over this here in a second, where we can auto-generate POs directly for these outside processing requirements. Same thing for transactions. Transactions just give you all the detail, whether we have issues, material issues, or labor entries, or completions at the end, you know, whether we had any scrap completions, scrap codes. I'll show some of that for you guys. So there's lots of things that you can get at here, you know, along with just the normal drill right into work order inquiry that if you're a work order user now, you're used to seeing, you know, my plan cost, my actuals, what are my variances, right? So a lot of people still want to see this detail. But once again, you know, the dashboard does a lot of good things. We can even auto-generate some subs right through here, and I'll get into that later when we talk about auto-generate work orders from sales orders or auto-generating the subs. So besides that work order dashboard, we also have an advanced dashboard because a lot of people want to add their UDF that they have, their user-definable fields that they've created out there in work order, or whether it's something that's coming from a sales order into a work order. And you can't really do it good with the work orders, I'm sorry, the dashboards that aren't grid oriented. So if you're used to Sage 100 and you're in sales order or purchase order or any other of the lines programs, you're used to seeing the grids here. And the grids are real nice because it makes it so you can move the grids around real easy by just dragging and dropping. You've got a secondary grid, so that can, you know, be brought up to the top. And then the real great thing, and why we created this, is because if you have user-definable fields and you want to add your own fields in here, you've got to use the grid dashboard instead of the standard work order dashboard, because it'll allow you to add your own custom fields and really move stuff around and make this more of a custom fit for you guys. Some of the other things I didn't show you, we can drill right to the scheduling dashboard from here. So I'll go into more detail here in regards to your different work centers and their standard hours of operation and the scheduled hours, and whether we're over or under capacities and how we can manage these capacities. And then also the build availability that you can get out to. So the build availability is basically, if you're used to using bill of materials, it's like a component requirement report. So it goes out there, it takes a look at the finished good, the quantity, the build quantity you need. It shows you what you have on hand and what is available. You got your demands and supplies also. And then it shows your componentry and what's available for those. So you can see we've summarized all the components to make this desktop. We've got some option codes in here. We need 5 of them. You can see that we've got a lot of shortages. So with that, you can see that in our available to promise area, we don't have, you know, some good data to really offer you here. If you look, one, quantity on hand base, that means you're going to steal the 48 you have here, even though these are probably promised for someone else. A lot of people don't want to use it based on quantity on hand. Most people would say available. They don't want to steal from another person to get to this one. So we don't have enough available. The build-based means there's enough supply here, which is work orders that are being made for inventory, not for made-to-order sales orders. So there should be enough of these 291 that will be available by 2003. You can see my demo data is rather old. But it says that we should have enough to deliver if they're made in time. And then the other option is there enough components available to make the 5 we need? Even could we make 1 or 2? Well, there isn't, because we have shortages on some of the major components we need. So then it says, what about the future available to promise? You could calculate that. It's gonna, as long as you have primary vendors assign your component items with their lead times, and we have a good schedule in place, so the routing is correct in terms of how many hours or operations it's going to take to get through the routing of this work order, then we would be able to promise this. So you can see here, if we started today, we could deliver on August 17th. And the way they calculated that is they figured out what's the longest lead time on my vendors, say it's 45 days, and then on the 11th, when we get our final components in, Can I put it on the schedule? Yes, I can. And then how long will it take to get through the schedule? And you can see the last step will then bring us down to the 8/17 date. And that's how we calculated this. So this build availability, to be able to review your components availabilities, shortages, and your finished goods, and also your vendors and your lead times. There's a lot of drill downs in here. We can group warehouses. Gosh, we can even auto-generate POs, which I'll get into later more for our shortages. There's a lot here, and we don't have enough time to go through all of it. Just know this build availability is not only on the dashboards, it's also off the main menu. It's also a button in the sales order line so customer service can be able to utilize the available order promise when they're talking to customers and taking orders. And it's also in work order entry so that if you key in work orders, say you don't do make to order and you don't have our auto-generate work orders from sales orders, so you tend to key in your orders, then we have that available, the build availability here also. So that covers the dashboards. I got to zip along here quickly because we don't have a lot of time. So let me now just go over some of the real nice utilities or efficiencies that we provided to make work order process faster and more efficient. So if you're doing back flushing or you're using WScan and you're scanning your materials or scanning your labor and completions, then we're trying to save you a step by allowing you to enter work orders in release mode. So instead of having to firm plan them up and then release them later, we save you a step. You can enter a work order in release mode. You can also save some steps by, instead of having to click operations, click scheduling, say yes to scheduling, you could use our little auto finish button here, which would save you a few more clicks. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but you'd be surprised. There's clients out there that say they want to save as many clicks as possible. So let's say you change the due date, you hit auto finish, and it finishes the work order for you. So we just created that work order in release mode. So now that we've done that and we've got it set up to backflush, all we need to do now is, maybe print the traveler, right? We offer a quick print of the traveler, print the traveler, print the pick ticket, pull the component, right? So here's the traveler of what we're doing here to make this computer. We can go pull the component, make it, and then at a certain point when it's completed, since we're backflushing all the components and reserving them up in inventory, we could just then go in and do a completion and close in one swoop. And that's the other efficiency that we offer, which is when you're out here and you're now ready to complete that work order that we just created. Obviously, time's gone by because it takes time to manufacture it. You come out here. You can go ahead and say, I want to complete all 5. Reproxy if you want to close it also. That saves another step. So now, when we run the completion through, it'll also close it. So now we won't have to do a separate close routine. Now with backflushing, it obviously created the material and issue backflushes for me. So it's going to require me to do a lot distribution on this item. So let me just do that real quick. And then once again, when I go ahead and process this all the way through, you'll see that we took it from keying it in as released, process the completion, auto close it, and then it'll go right to the GL, and it'll be all done. So we'll go ahead and update it. We will preview it so you could see. So this is the material issues going out. We're crediting raw material. We're debiting WIP. We're crediting some applied WIP. Then the W3 here is the labor entry. So if I go through that, you will see here's where we're debiting WIP labor, the applied offset. And then when we finally did the completion, we're debiting finished good inventory and we're flushing out the WIP account. So we did it all in one swoop. Yeah.
There was a question about the auto finish, what sets the defaults for that?
So there's really auto finish is just there whenever you're creating a work order. So there's really, maybe I'm a little confused, David, in terms of default. It's just whatever is brought in initially with the work order, those are the defaults, right, that come in from up here. So these are all the defaults that come in. When you put your item in, it brings in some more defaults. And then the auto finish is really saving you from having to do this.
Yeah, maybe
really,
walk through
yeah,
the tabs.
So if you didn't do auto finish, right, let's say, they said they needed it by 7:15. What most people have to do is they have to click on operations without our software, right? They have to click on scheduling. They have to decide, well, that's the due date, so I'm doing backward scheduling. And now I can do accept. So I had to click operations, scheduling, yes, okay. Once again, it goes back probably 10 years. A customer paid us to custom program this piece in because he didn't want to have 3 extra mouse clicks. But you should be surprised how many people actually appreciate saving 3 mouse clicks. To me, I never was a big fan of it, but a lot of people do appreciate that. So hopefully that answered that. Just know that, what we've tried to do is just make work order process a little bit faster, more efficient, let you auto-generate work orders, maybe let you auto-generate transactions, auto-generate purchase orders. So everything we're trying to do here is just provide more automation and efficiencies for you. So I've kind of gone over the auto release and the auto close. So now, if I would go back in that dashboard, you would see right away that work order is closed, right? So the one we just did is probably this one for 5, right? So it's closed. If I go to the materials, you'll see that if I had it back flushing, it took the system's planned quantities, brought them in, costed it out appropriately. You go to the ops, you'll see that it brought in the actual hours based on plan. Okay, I didn't do the outside processing, so that didn't get pushed through. I didn't check that to be an automated feature. And then if you look at the transactions, you'll see that, everything went down on this and the completion went through 2 of the 5. So we did everything without having you have to do really too much to it, by utilizing back flushing and auto closing and auto releasing. Made it just a little bit faster for you to process. Another one of the nice little things we do that stock Sage never did, which, still flusters me today, which I think is pretty common sense, is that you would put the work order number out here when you build something, right? Or when you issue something. So if it's a component, this is a finished good. So whether it's a component or it's a finished good, you should show the work order number and not the journal. So you could see here, this is the work order number. Stock Sage puts the journal register number in here, which we always were a little perplexed why they would do that, because they put the invoice number in, right, on others, right? So if I came here and said all and said show all, and you come look at all, so like right here, that's the invoice number. So we never understood, this is what stock did. This 28 is not the work order number. This is the journal number. It was an issue type, right? Because this is a sub. So this could be an issue and a receipt, a sub finished good, right? So here you can see we started kicking in, putting the work order number, which obviously makes more sense. Okay. I went over the build availability. A couple other things I want to go over here with the efficiency pack too. So, and a lot of this stuff works in conjunction with the WO scan enhancement, where you could be scanning materials, labor, completions. using this QA module, doing a lot of those things to make it even more automated and less amount of labor time involved for people to hand key in this stuff. So we offer WIP status codes and scrap reason codes. So for the WIP status code, you can build whatever codes you wanted here. I've built a lot of stuff here based on my outside processing, but you could have, you know, stuff for every single type of operational step that your finished goods or subs have to go through, you know, whether it goes through, you know, sawing, cutting, plating, you know, whether you want to just say it's in progress or it's complete. You know, you could set all of these at each little step level. You could have a hold, a complete, you know, there's lots of different things you could do. These are all, you know, user definable by you. So you create your statuses, same thing with your scrap reason codes. You could create all the scrap reason codes you like with different GL accounts. And then as you post through, you can utilize those and then reference those, so you get some reporting out of that. So to utilize those, WIP statuses are coming through the labor transaction postings, whereas the scrap reason codes are coming through the completion postings. So you can see here in the dashboard, you'll see WIP statuses. See, like I just sorted by the WIP status. So these are all mine that are in heat treating. Here are the ones that are in plating and painting and so forth, right? So when you drill in on these, you'll see that this is the heat treat line of the routing, right? So what happens is when we created the outside process, we went ahead and put it in heat treat. But we could have operational steps of all of these. So we could have a WIP status on all of these as they're going through the system. Now, it works a lot easier with WOScan because you could just scan the work order, scan the new status, push it through. It can update automatically, be live within seconds. Without it, you would need to have more so a transaction process through. So without WOScan, and if you want to trap WIP statuses, it's all through the labor postings. So as you're posting labors through, you could basically be saying, okay, this employee is working on this job, they're working on this step, they've spent 2 hours, they completed 2, and I'm going to say it's now, you know, being, you know, it's now moving out of plating or something, right? And so that, as we update this, that'll update the last status of the work order and the statuses within the op codes of where it stands at any given time. So that's where we talk about it's either a WIP status or it's a movement or it's a position where it's in now. A lot of people like to know that, and the dashboard gives them that information. So once again, it works a lot smoother and cleaner with WOScan because, you know, coming in here and posting labor transactions can really be tedious. And a lot of people that use work order seem to want to use either the automatic or the back flushing method because of how tedious it can be to just process labor manually through work order and transaction entry. Now, the WIP statuses, they're the same thing, whether the completions are coming through WOScan or they're just being keyed in here because you don't need WOScan, you don't need that type of solution. So when you're here and you're doing a completion, now it doesn't show up yet, you would actually have to say you're completing to scrap. So you'd have to first say, I'm scrapping, then you get the scrap code. You could say, I'm scrapping too. And then you could say, and I want to say it's a bad finish good item. And there's our closed work order, by the way. Okay. So that's the way you would handle the WIP and status codes. Now, other types of efficiencies that the efficiency base offers, well, we can auto-generate transactions. So we've got people still using this. This is a really old solution, but you could actually go out here and you can, instead of doing your work in transaction entry, this one could be a little bit more user-friendly. Like if you were going to do like the back flushing items I have now, you could actually do both labor and materials, enter a work order, say it, this one, got to enter a released work order. Okay, quantity update, it tells me what needs to be completed. I could choose a crew or just a default employee. And then when I accept it, it'll tell me that it's going to do back flushing on the materials and the labor. It prompts me if I want to close it, I could say yes. And then it's ready for the next entry. So once again, it's just a simple program where you could just enter a whole bunch of, like here I'm entering completions that are back flushing work orders. And then when it's all said and done, it went ahead and auto-generated them for you. So now I just created this new entry, and those should be out here now, right? There's the labor, there's the material, I'll have to delete that, and there was the completion of 13. Yeah. So once again, you know, some utilities out here you might not find the need for it, but then you might like to use it. Okay. We also have, I'm going to get a little more in this auto-generate transactions from SOs because this really works more in tandem with the make-to-order add-on we have, but it can work if you're just hand keying in work orders, making for sales orders in there too. But I'll go into that in more detail later. Also, you know, we allow you to delete released work orders as long as you haven't posted any materials or labor or outside process to it yet. You can delete them in a work order entry one by one. But if you wanted to delete a range, we have a delete range utility here. This is kind of nice to use, especially if you use our auto-generate work orders from SOs, because if you generate a whole bunch of work orders by accident, it's nice to then be able to delete them in a range mode instead of one by one here, especially if you're creating a whole bunch. So we have that. I don't want to get into too much detail there because we are going to run out of time. But there's other little efficiencies in here. We just don't have enough time to go through all of it. But once again, you know, we try to give you stuff to make work order more efficient. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump into make to order now. What we've provided here is the ability to auto-generate work orders from sales orders. We allow you to do it whether you're doing it what we call in our batch mode, where you can give a range of orders, a range of order dates, and do a whole bunch at once, or whether you want to go into the sales order line, and while you're on a sales order line, auto-generate a work order right there. Okay. We also offer you to be able to auto-generate work orders from like a XLS or CLS file. So like if you, that's down here, if you, go back one. If you've got, you know, if you're using spreadsheets to maintain a forecast and you've always, you know, maintained it in spreadsheets and you want to import in the work orders and have them be generated, well, we provide that for you. A lot of people still do that, so we had to offer that type of solution for auto-generated work orders. Okay. We can also auto-generate the sub-assemblies. So when we're auto-generating work orders for sales orders or from within the sales order lines, however we're doing it, we can also create the sub-assemblies for those. And from those, we could even look at the replenishment handling, either for the finished goods or the sub-assemblies, in terms of, when I say replenishment handling, I'm talking about availability, and then all your replenishment detail in terms of reorder points, minimum order quantities, max stock levels, how you do do you do it based on reorder points or economic order quantity, that whole replenishment handling, you know, the reorder methods, you know, that you utilize for your sub-assemblies or your finished goods. So we could generate work orders and take into account, you know, if there's some availability on the shelf, why make, you know, it for the full demand required, right? So we offer that type of feature. We've got a summarize like items feature where we can actually read over a range of sales order lines and summarize the same finished good products and just make one work order for inventory and link them together. We've got a max lot size, which I'll go into a little more detail. we're just about ready to come out with our auto-generated work orders from inventory, so you can utilize this to just build right for your replenishment and your, your availabilities without having to go through, the sales order demand, making for sales order demand, so to speak. We could just go right off inventory. And then also we're looking to add a cost estimating solution where when you're sitting in a sales order quote, we can get a work order estimate of what the costs are going to be and be able to maybe bring back a unit price with some margin percentages so that you can, know how to price out your finished good. We have a lot of people out there in the industry that make a lot of one-offs, and they just find it that they need something to help them price out the finished goods that they end up manufacturing for the one-off. So for this, let's go ahead and just jump back into Sage, and let's go ahead and just start right ahead with our auto-generate work orders from sales orders. Once again, a range of orders or range of dates. You can see it's going off my default. I've got the system set up to say I auto-release automatically. I back flush. I'm going to turn off the use max loss feature. Okay. I can go ahead and decide which warehouses I want to make them out of. We also have another option that if you have multi-warehouses or multi-facility handling, we can handle that by choosing the right facility that we're going to use. There's some setups for that, so I need to kind of go over that in more detail, and we probably won't do that here. We could summarize like items, we could create subs, and then we can do the replenishment handling. So we can utilize this to create work orders. We can even go right to the sales order lines to create the work orders. So why don't I start in the sales order lines, and I'll make my way back there. So you're in a sales order. Okay, so we're in the sales order. We're talking to the customer. We need 50. We see we don't have enough available. We now have the ability to go to build availability, to check out when we can promise this, and we can also generate the work orders right from here. So I can come out here, do a build avail on this guy. I've got a promise date of 6/27, so that's the date it's going to utilize for my allocations and requirements here. Okay, so you can see I've got all shortages. I have none available. Well, I have some on hand, but obviously there's so much being demanded that I don't have enough available. So I'm going to go ahead and do the calc. It's going to tell me for these 50, I can promise them on 9/18. Once again, it does that formula where 45 days is 8/11, and to make all of these is 9/18 to get through the schedule. And then I can promise them, that I can deliver 50 if I'm a customer service rep and I'm on the phone with the customer, right? So once again, I've done the build avail first. I'm going to create the work order. I'm also going to create the subs. I'm going to skip the max lot size, and I'm going to skip that for now. But I'm going to go out here, and I'm going to create work orders. So I just created 96855 for the board. I'm making 50, and then there's two sub-assemblies off of this. So you can see that the board 04230 goes into the board 04230-16. So this is a make to order for the upper, and then this memory actually goes into this, into the second level sub-assembly. So we've made 3 work orders for that, and they've all been generated by doing it that way. Now we can also do it in batch mode, which I find more of the production guys don't want to be in the sales order lines. That's more for customer service. So I see more of it being done out here, so to speak. Now out here, you could put in ranges, and since we link the work order to the sales order line, we won't double it up. In other words, if I tried to do 198, which I just did, or 195, I can't remember, one of these is going to get skipped. So, and we could summarize like items if we wanted to. We could still create subs. We can look at availability, handling if we want. I'm going to skip those, and I'm not going to use the max slot size, but let's just create the subs this way. And it's going out there now and creating all the work orders for you. And here's what we created. So you can see, since we summarized, instead of making for sales order, we're making for inventory because we're summarizing the items. So you can see here we're summarizing. This is a make. This is the sub-assembly off this upper level board. And then here's these two subs off that. So you can see we've summarized, and to actually see all of these work orders now, if you go back to the sales order area, you will see that we've linked them together, but we say that they're summed up. So you can see we say they're summed, but when you go look at the detail, you can see these are the work orders that were used to sum those up. So,
Ron?
Yes.
Do you have the promise date on there? Does the Autogenerate, does that promise date come into play at all on that?
It does. It does. Matter of fact, even with the subs. So when you're out here and you're creating a, so watch this. So I'll create a new, I'll just create a work order off this one right here. So here, I'll go create, I'll use that 4-16 because it's got good subs here. So let's say I need 5 of these, right? So if I say go create, oh wait, before I do that, let's change the date so it looks better. Let's say I need it by the 21st, okay? And then I come out here, create a work order, create the subs. I'll say no to that and no to that. And what you'll notice is it'll create this one with a due date of 7/21, okay? So now let me go show you 96864, 65, and 66, okay? So what you'll see it did is, and remember the 7/21 is the due date on the 1st. So it knows how to back up the others also. So when you come out here, let's do a refresh and go here. So see, 6/4 is due 7/21. So the schedule, I didn't make it up. Let's see if I can get to the prior one. Okay, how about this one right here? This one had a due date of 6/27, so it needs to be released 6/7. But this one is the sub-assembly that goes into it, so it'd have to be due 6/7 so that it's ready for the release of this. And this one needs to be due 4/20 so that it can fall in line with the release of this. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So it all links them together and uses the dates appropriately to line them all up. Okay, so let's minimize this. I know I'm starting to run out of time, so I got to pick it up a little bit here. David, can we go over a little, or do we need to kind of call it quits at 11 my time, 2 your time? We'll hear from David here in a second. Okay. So I showed you the Autogenerate sales order, the sales order in the line. So I didn't really go over some of the replenishment handling. We're not going to have enough time for that. We do have the ability to auto-generate work orders, like I told you, from a projection file. So we lay out the specs on the projection file, and then you basically go out here and you choose that file, and then it will go ahead and it will import it in. We can even create the subs from here also. And we have a little bit of a layout that we say column A needs to be the finished good item, column B is the quantity, and those are two of the, we for sure have to have those two. Now, do you want to have a due date or a scheduled release date, or do you want to have a revision, bill revision that we should utilize or any bill option codes or comments or UDF? So we kind of tag on a lot of stuff to auto-generate the work orders, but really the two fields I really need is the item and the quantity. With those two fields, I know I can go grab the bomb and I can make the work order, obviously with the routing assigned to the bomb too. So we offer that also to the Autogenerate. Some of the other things that we offer, so we have certain clients that like to put work orders in work order entry. They're not made to order, but at a later time they want to create their stuff.
He just started going.
Sorry you did it?
Yes.
Okay. So we have another feature set in here to allow you to auto-generate work orders from, you auto-generate sub-assemblies from work orders. So right here in the dashboard, you can either do it in the dashboard or we have it as a menu choice. It's telling me I've already had one of these out here, so it's not going to let me do it. So once again, I've got to find one that has it, but I'll probably strike out here a little bit unless I create one separately. But once again, you know, you can go out there and create these work orders as you see fit, you know, if you need them. So, so like here, if I would maybe this one right here. Okay, so it's creating the subs. One work order got created. We give you a little log on the screen so that you know what you just created, but this log is out there in the Math 90 directory. We save all these TXT logs for you so you can have access to them. But it's basically telling us we created a work order for the sub-assembly, work order for the memory board, and we created it here, and there's the due date, and there's the work order. So you've got the ability to create subs that way. You could also create subs, auto-generate some sub-assemblies from work orders this way too. So there's lots of different ways of auto-generating work orders. And once again, like I told you, we're now in beta on this auto-generate work orders from inventory, where you can put a whole range in and choose and, you know, read through quite a bit of stuff. So that is make to order. So I'm going to jump ahead to outside processing, and I'm going to try to go a little fast in outside processing and auto-generate POs so we can get over to the scheduling, okay? So outside processing is really just trying to tie the vendors with your outside processing work centers and letting you auto-generate purchase orders and then linking those auto-generated purchase orders in with the work order and letting all that process flow back to the work order, cost it out to the work order, and then link that in with the traveler and stuff. So it just gives you the ability to be able to have that automation in play. So if you go, you have to start out with work center maintenance. That's where you set up all your production lines or work centers. So my heat treat, I've labeled as an outside processing work center. With it labeled as outside processing, we provide you a new vendors button. You can choose multiple vendors. From the vendors, you get to their detail. Since with most outside processing, you're just paying them for a service. You're actually not, you know, they're not providing you a component item, a finished good item, or anything like that. They're basically taking your item and heat treating it and giving it back to you. So we basically provide you the ability to use whether it's, you know, we call these special items when you put an asterisk in front of it, or you could do miscellaneous charges or miscellaneous items. You could do regular items. You could do comment lines. You could do a whole combo of stuff. Whatever you need to auto-generate an outside processing PO for work that needs to be performed and then have that work costed back to the work order, you could set up in here. And then once again, we have other features in here. We just don't have enough time to get in all the details. But once all of it is structured, then when you're out here on a given work order, you could come out to the operations. By the way, green means we haven't created the outside processing PO. Once we do, you'll see it turns blue, and then it eventually turns red once we've posted all the costs through on it. Then that step is complete. So I could come out here. I could choose my default, which is in blue. I could say that I need this by 5/3, right? So I'm just going to say I need it by the 27th to make it easy, and I'm just going to go create the PO. Now, all the POs you create will get stored in here. All the receipts are stored in there, so everything can be viewed from the work order dashboard. So here it is. You can see that we've linked in a UDF for the parent item code that they're going to be making, so he knows he's heat treating this. We took the extended quantity of the work order and pushed it through. We also have a way of, if you would have noticed, we had a cost of $25 per unit we pay him, but through utilizing the PO vendor price level, we have ways of the heat treat vendor that works on a given item could then have his own costs associated with it. So we've used this table to be able to do proper costing of the purchase order for the outside process center. So once again, it's all built in. If you go here, we're bringing the extended description from the route so that he's got good comments in terms of what he has to make. And then when you scroll down here, you will see that it's all linked up to the work order as an outside processing step. So it's been structured. So now it's out there. I can accept it. It's now part of it. Like I said, you can have multiple POs, multiple receipts, and you can view it all within here. If I get out and this is 804, I do a refresh, and I come back and look, you will see, okay, where was 804? Right here. You see it now says it's in heat treating, right? It brought my status through. You go to the operations, it's in blue now. And once again, you know, you're out here and you can review the PO if you like. You can make changes to it. You don't have to go into PO entry. It's all built in within the work order area. It's also part of the Traveler. We made the Traveler. So here's a crystal print Traveler. We created a new form so that if you want to link in that outside processing detail on the Traveler, it could be part of it. So you can see right here is the heat treating and outside processing detail. Now, if you don't want to do your outside processing like I just did by clicking in the dashboard and having to go here and do them one by one, each work order like this, we have a auto-generate purchase orders program from work centers. So if you come out here, you can do our auto-generate POs from outside work centers. So this is if, like, for example, let's say your vendor comes in once a week and he picks up a whole bunch. You'd be able to come here and say, okay, here's my vendor. He's the heat treat guy. And let's go select. So a whole bunch gets selected. That means heat treat. And then let's say, well, we don't want all of these. Let's say we just want that one, and that one. We'll move these down. We can now clear this area. Now, these are ready to generate POs. I could change the required dates by going into my edit screen and maybe even quantities if I wanted to. Or I could come back up here and say, well, that's the heat treat guy. Let's now go do the paint guy and stay in the same screen while I do all these, right? So I think you catch the drift. You're able to stay in here. Maybe you don't want all of these. You only want those two, and so forth, and then go on to the next outside process. So I could do painting, heating, and generate all of them. I could summarize. I could put all the heat treat on one PO, 4 separate lines, or I could create 4 separate POs. So quite a few different things you can do. So that is outside processing really fast. Auto-generate POs. So you've got the ability to auto-generate POs from inventory, which takes into account availability. It takes into account all your replenishment detail in terms of your order points, minimum, max quantities, right? You could basically come out here and define your demand values by limiting how many, by promise dates. Like, let's say you got all these sales orders way out in the future. You might want to limit those demand sources when I'm calculating available because those are so far out there, I don't want those to be considered into the numbers when I need to purchase for what I need now. So we let you go out on the work orders and the sales orders for demand. Eventually, we've been talking about adding the MRP projections into this also, but it lets you do quite a few different things. You know, you can do selection options based on components, or you can do selection options based on BOMs. In other words, put a BOM in so that it can explode out down to the component level and only search those components for required inventory versus just going from a component level. We've had people that say, okay, for this bill, I want to see what components I have available, another bill. So we have added that feature in there. So once again, it's just like the other one where you select a whole bunch of stuff, you move it down, right? So if I came here, let's say I was doing it by product line, I could come in here and say card, okay, do a select on that. Okay, that one, I need availability, so let's move that one down. Let's now go search for the chips, see if I've got anything, and yep, I want those, and so forth. And you can keep going, and then eventually, we let you edit it. You could edit the vendor. You could edit the quantities or costs. You could see all of your, you know, availability and replenishment values to make decisions, right? So you can do all of that, and then you can decide to generate the PO. So once again, it's just a screen to help you out. We give you exceptions and selection logs when things don't get selected. We also have auto-generate POs right for work orders. So this doesn't look at availability. This is purchasing right for the component work order demand, and then we link those component items with the work order number so that when the receipts come in, that you know those are directly for those work orders and that they shouldn't be stolen for other work orders. That kind of was the gist of doing it, so that we really link the work order, the component work order requirements, and that they don't get used for others. So if you want, you can utilize this. It just doesn't take into account replenishment and availability, so you can buy right from work order demand. And like I had mentioned earlier, in our build availability, we have the ability to auto-generate POs right from a shortage situation we're noticing right here. So you can see I've got some stuff out on PO right here. You can see that if I drill to the POs, here are all the POs with their promise dates. But if I wanted to generate for where my quantity net is, I could go out here and generate the POs for all the shortages that are right there in that one build availability lookup. Okay, that is auto-generate. So let me see if I could just do scheduling. David, do you think we can go over 5 or 10 minutes here?
We can.
Okay,
no, yeah,
great.
it's a lot of good stuff you're showing us, and yes,
Okay.
Assuming people have time, the webinar will keep going.
Okay. All right. So from the dashboard, as I mentioned earlier, you can get out to the Work Center dashboard, right? This is the summary dashboard. This is every single production line or work center that we have out there in the system. And on any of these, I can drill now to the detail. So I'm drilling right now. Oops, sorry about that. Let's go back in here. Some of my demo data is probably bad. So I was here, so I'll go ahead and go back here again just to show you. But also, you can get to the Work Center dashboard right from here also. So if you'd rather just get from here, you can get it right from here. But a lot of people usually are in the work order dashboard all day. They're going to the Work Center dashboard. They're going to build availability. They're drilling down to all these different things. So I find a lot of people are there anyway. So when you're here and I drill to the detail now I'm on final packaging on 6/27. I drilled right to that day. So you can see here that I've got only 8 standard hours. So the 27th is a Tuesday. It shows up here that I only have 8 hours on Tuesday. I've got 22 hours scheduled here, right? So here in the detail box, we try to give you lots of good info, right? We try to give you if it's a make for sales order, who's the customers, promise dates, release start dates, you know, how far through we are. Any work order you click on here, you get more detail down here. Like if it goes over multiple days, then you're going to see like this one right here's got 8 hours, but you can see that it's actually on Monday, it's got another 7.2 going down, right? So it could have multiple days. But we're just looking on 627. You could sort on any of these columns, right? Maybe we'd want to sort on, on the due dates here so that we know when things were promised, right? So yeah, maybe I don't have that good of information, right? All the due dates are the same, right? Maybe we put them in order, right? So we have to decide now, do we want to prioritize these? Do we want to, we're going to need to move some? Can we grab more bodies possibly to work in final packaging? I'm going to assume my final packaging work center is what's called a infinite load work center. In other words, I can grab more bodies or I can add another shift. It's not machinery that's packaging it all up. It's people that are just grabbing stuff and putting it in boxes and sealing them. So I think I could add more bodies here. So since I have a bottleneck here, I'm going to go ahead and go to one of our overrides, which allows us to either bump up or down any given day. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to say on 627, I'm going to be able to grab another shift, maybe another 2 shifts. I'm going to add another 14 hours to the job. Now, I could do it daily like I'm doing here, or I could put a range in and update it. So like a good example of a range would be, let's say, instead of bumping up hours, let's say I have a regular shift and a swing shift, no graveyard. So let's say I got 16 hours a day, but let's say we're taking the swing shift down for a week because of maintenance. So really, we're only going to have 8 hours a day for a week, not 16. So I can then put a week, from a Monday through Friday date here. I could say it's down to 8, and then I can bump the time down. But I'm going to bump it up. I'm going to get out. You'll notice that actually, I should have bumped it up to 22. Sorry. I'll do 24. So once you bump it up, it then changes the number. It puts it in blue so it stands out so that you know that a user must have changed the standard scheduled times. But now I have 2 available. Now I could decide, which ones do I want to work on first versus last. You can use our little priority settings here where you can just go move up and down, right? So you can do the up and down, right? I could say, oh yeah, move this one up, move this one down, right? Say done. And then it will just assign 1, 2, 3, 4 after you've done that. Or you could come up here and say, you know what? I don't do it that way. I do A, this one's B, and so forth, right? So you can do it however you want. You can manually number them. You could do our numbering scheme by just up and down and let it do, a 3-digit numeric value. If you put a H out here, capital H, it puts it on hold and then takes it out of the addition of what's available or not. So there's quite a different things you can do. If you wanted to take, let's say we wanted to put this back to something else. Let's make it 16 hours, right? So let's close it out. So, let's take this back off hold. Okay, so now I'm over. So now, we could move one of these jobs out. Let's say I want to move this to Wednesday the 28th. So I'm just going to come out here and say move it to the 28th. Reschedule it. Okay, so it just moved that. Got to do a refresh, and refreshes it up. It still says I have 1 hour short. So I might have to move something else. We do allow you to hold the control key down if you want to do multiple lines to reschedule. We also allow you to split the schedule. So like, let's say I had, well, here, let's just put it out there. Let's say I have 18 hours. 18 hours available. So I've got what? So I want to use up one more of, well, no, I did that wrong. Maybe I want to make it 16. What I was trying to say is I could split these times to say, it got structured by work order to make it one line of 8 hours on 627. I could split that by going to my more extensive scheduling changes where it tells me, this is the last line of the work order. There's no lines underneath, because if there were lines underneath, and I'm going to push this line, it's going to push the line subsequent to it. But it does allow me to split this line. So I could say, you know what, put, 4 hours on the 27th, and then do the other 4 hours on, the 28th or something, right? So you can do that, and then you can then say schedule it, and then it'll move the things around accordingly and change the numbers up. So you've got that ability also. The other thing that you can do is, let me get to a better day with some more detail here. Let me come and push us back into where I think I have more demo data. So, okay. So let's push us forward. So, yeah, how about right there? So what we have is we have the ability to print the schedules also. So we could print each of these schedules for March 1st by clicking on the March 1st area, or if we pick one of these work centers, right? So let's say I can even go to the detail. Let's say I'm in the detail screen of this. So I could either print all the work centers, which would have been all of these, by just clicking here, or if I click here, it'll just print today's heat treat work center. So I'm going to go ahead and print this. And these are crystal reports that you guys can modify and change however you like. But it's basically something to give the guy at their station so they know what they're working on today. So here's today, here's the priorities, and once again, you could change this form up however you have. You can see I don't have the item number in here. A lot of people might want that. You could go landscape on this instead of portrait, and so forth. And then you can go through all the different areas. And once again, there's more fields in here to be able to utilize. Once again, this is the scheduling area that you can get to. So once again, you can either get to it from the menu, you can get to it from the work order dashboard and then drill into the detail. You can get to it from just being out in the operations and say you want to go look right at this schedule and go right to it from a work order schedule. And then once you're in here, just so you know which work order that you actually drilled in from, we give you the little flashlight up here so that you can, so you got to click on a work order first. And then you can see what that work order's stuff is all. So this is what we've got currently in play. We just did a modification that we're going to be adding to the system to allow you to do manual scheduling. So this is in beta. The client's already using it. We're just giving them another couple weeks to bang on it, and then we'll probably add it in. But what it's going to add in for you guys is we're going to have a button allow you to choose a choice called manual. And when you go manual, these fields here get disabled. These fields here get disabled. And you're really only allowed now to be able to, these then get enabled, and you're allowed to put in start and stop times manually. We don't check any of the hours. We don't check if you're overlapping. We do no checking. And any work order that's manually keyed in or manually changed, because obviously when work orders get created, they get auto-generated based on hours and all that good stuff. But when they're manually overridden, it won't add it to that schedule, the scheduling dashboard, because it doesn't fall under the parameters of following the ops per hour, hours per ops, and where it should fall or not, because you just manually told us to spend even though maybe your routing is labeled, it takes 16 hours to get done. You say it's going to all be done today, in 8 hours. So we just have to go with the manual settings and let it slide from there. But we've had enough requests for manual to be able to put it in the product. Down the road, we'll probably create some regenerations and what-if type solutions. But for right now, this is what we've provided for scheduling. It doesn't really have much scheduling out there. So that pretty much concludes the areas that we went over the efficiency, the make to order. I skipped a few areas like the auto-generate transactions from SOs, but you know, we're running out of time. Just know that you can come out here and create basically, you could come out here, if you generated a work order from a sales order, you could, and let's say you generated as an estimate work order, we could then flip all of those to firm plan. We could flip firm plan to releases. We could issue materials labor outside or do all the auto lift, which is issues labor outside. We do completions, we can close. We can do everything by auto-generating based on sales orders and promise dates. And once again, when you do this, it's pretty smart. It knows that, you know, if I say go generate, say, the completions for this and do all the lift and do the close, it's going to grab not only the line that we did for the sales order, but all the subs that were created too. So you can see here, that was the sales order line, that was the sales order line, and that was the sales order line, and these are all the subs. So you can do quite a bit of stuff with this auto-generate. But I think I'm going to stop there and open it up to questions if there are any.
All right. Yeah, I don't have any questions unanswered from what they've typed in so far.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions they want to ask now to the group, go ahead and raise your hand. I'll unmute your phone.
The other thing we could do, David, is if any of them want more of a personalized demo where we can review how they do their manufacturing and how this might help them, we can always structure those.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see anybody raising their hand right now. You did give a lot of good information.
It's just a lot, and it's fast.
Yeah, and this we did record this, so it will be posted on our website within the next couple of days. We'll have that up there. If anybody can't find the link to it or wants it, just go ahead and email me directly. My email is doverholt@dwdtechgroup.com. Ron, any last minute things you want to add, or?
Well, I just wanted to say that work order is a good opportunity for, you know, the manufacturers out there that don't need something too elaborate, too intense. And when you add our manufacturing automation pieces in, we can really make it a little simpler, a little bit more efficient, a little more automated for you.
Exactly, and I think you've said it a number of times that Sage's work order out of the box does its job, but it takes a lot of data entry that
it's tedious, it's laborious. Yeah,
tedious, and that's why I'm sold on the product you guys offer here. It can make things much easier.
Right. Okay, so, guys.
Yeah, if there's not anything else, I think we'll go ahead and end the session now. And be sure and email me if anybody has any questions they think of later or would like a personal demo or anything along those lines. And thank you again very much, Ron. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problems. Okay, take care, guys.
Uh-huh.